it's Blair and Jean. I am Jean Leggett.
I am Blair Leggett.
And we are excited that this is Developer Chat number 4. And for those of you that have been eagerly awaiting our live chats on Fridays, welcome. Nice to have you.
We're going to record this one, aren't we?
Yes, this time no technical glitches will be allowed. So I hope somebody pops on soon to say, hey,
we can hear you.
We can hear you. And so if you're watching, could you just like put a little comment or a little like to let us know that you can hear us?
Everything's good.
That would be really helpful. Thank you. And so we have some pretty exciting stuff to tell you about this week.
How are you doing?
How am I doing? I'm doing really well.
Yeah?
Yes.
Good.
So I'm kind of jealous of the work that you get to do right now because you're really diving into
Hey, we can hear you, says Neil.
Story. Thanks, Neil. Yay. Hi, Brianna. Nice to see you guys. I'm jealous because you're getting to do the story development work right now, and I am bogged in administrative, mundane things that need to be done.
Well, there's a bit of both.
Yes.
Part of it is I'm doing the story flow
yes.
with Neil, who we will talk about in a moment. Hi, Neil.
Hi.
And I'm also doing some of the architecture stuff, which is kind of cool. I'm learning how to think like an architect and build up settings and stuff like that.
Hey, who knows? Maybe you can design our dream home.
I think we might do that. Or even The Office, maybe for more story games.
Yes.
They don't have pinball machines in this software, though. So
yes, exactly. So, today's going to be a little bit of a free flow. We have some things that we want to talk about. Number one, you know what? I'm going to save the big one for last.
Okay, all right, sounds good.
So the number one thing that we're super excited about is this week we finally launched Story Worlds, which is where you play our games on the iPad. We're still having some challenges with the font size being really... Are we going to build our dream home in Shakespeare? I don't know. I kind of like Canada. But who knows? Maybe our dream home will appear in Shakespeare, and that will be a little wink and a nod. I like that idea.
Yeah, I like that.
So, but going
that'll
back
be for
to,
novel 6, Neil.
But there is no novel 6. I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. So somebody's phone is on vibrate because I could hear it buzzing. And so we're on. No, that's not me.
Okay.
That's no. See, I turn things off.
I know.
I turn things off.
Sorry.
So we're super excited because we're now on the iPad, which has taken us a very long time. Because when you're a small feisty team, sometimes those things are on a different priority list. Anyways, so check it out. I'm going to put the link right now in the comments that you can check out if you want to try some of our other games on the iPad. So there is the Apple Store, and if you're an Android person, you can check it out on the Android as well. And like we've mentioned a couple of times, we've got some really great games in the stores. A number of them are free to play. And
most of it's free.
Yeah, and you can at least play a demo of Mandatory Upgrade, which we keep talking about because it's a really great example of a mystery game that's going to use a lot of the same mechanics as Lily Bard.
Yeah.
So, all right, so we talked about the iPad. Next week,
yes,
I will be away eating lobster on the Atlantic coast. I'm super excited. I have never been to New Brunswick or the Maritimes. And Blair is hopefully going to be able to have a live chat with Neil Halford, who is a really amazing guy. He is a narrative designer with... Neil, if you could just type, how many years of experience have you got?
Oh, goodness.
But Neil's massive super awesomeness is that he was the one that adapted Betrayal at Krondor. And Neil will speak a little bit more about that. In fact, it's funny. I
also wanted to show off, because I knew Neil long before we sort of got to work with him, because I had his book, Swords and Circuitry. For the longest time, this was like a really good Bible of mine.
And then when you met him, you kind of had that fanboy moment.
I did, because I really loved, Neil and his wife.
Yes, Jaina.
Jaina, yes. Worked on this, and it was something that 27, says Neil, so there we go.
27 years in the games industry.
But this was a good guide for me when I was starting out thinking about game design, and I was, working in the industry and building my own stuff on the side. So Neil is
your partner in crime.
Yes, he is.
Quite literally. As we work on these mystery series. And we don't want to take away from that conversation. So next week you guys can talk about your approach and strategy, and maybe
how stuff's coming together, and yeah.
highlight how you're approaching the narrative design and how Neil's approaching it and how you'll be working together. And you're going to have to throw me into the mix as well, because
you're very important, though.
Thank you. How am I important, dear?
I'm on the spot here.
You walked into that trap.
No. I mean, but for us, though, I mean, it really is bringing both the men and the women of Shakespeare to life.
Yes.
In the characters. Lily is a woman, and it's trying to represent that authentically. There are a lot of... I mean, we went and saw Wonder Woman last weekend.
Oh my gosh, if you have not seen Wonder Woman, it was really fantastic. And I love watching the comments on Twitter and on Facebook about how moms and dads are taking their little girls, but also their little boys, and having their little boys go, wow, women are pretty kick-ass too. It has, and I only cried at the end.
Yeah.
After the movie had been over.
Oh, yes.
And there was this couple, and they must have been, I'm going to say they were in their 80s. And it just...
This isn't part of the movie.
This isn't part of the movie. This was just in the theater. And I saw this couple that are in their 80s, and here they were watching Wonder Woman, and I thought, wow, she must have been a little girl when Wonder Woman first came out. How amazing is it for her to be able to see this movie? So...
That was really cute.
Yeah.
They walked out hand in hand.
It gave me the feels. Yeah. So you can, hopefully my first husband, that's you.
First husband?
First husband,
Is there
yes.
another husband I
I
should
don't know.
know about?
Well, you'll just have to behave yourself.
Oh.
So, so we have had this preliminary conversation last night is, why is it important for me to be part of the writing team?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it really is important because we have a strong female character. We have Lily. It was written by a female author, Charlaine.
Mm-hmm.
And I would have a conflict having two white men do the soul lifting of all of the writing in there. So whether I end up doing like additional writing, or because I am definitely going to be doing editing and overseeing a lot of this, but I want to make sure that the woman's voice is fairly represented, especially as we get into chapter 5. Now, I would highly recommend for those of you that are watching the podcast live to be prepared to maybe jump in and talk to us next week about chapter 5. So chapter 5 is the flashback to the horrible experience that Lily had. And
she's a survivor in a lot of ways.
We're going to talk about that 2 weeks from now.
2 weeks from now.
When I'm back. Okay.
So next week is the Neil chat with design.
Neil. And, well, thank you, Neil. Okay, so Neil is pointing out that he's a card-carrying member of the Cherokee Nation. That is awesome. And, that's, we need diverse perspectives in stories. And that's something that's very important to us.
Can I say one thing, though?
Yes.
I mean, I think with any good writing, you have empathy for the characters of your world and the people of your world. When we worked on Danielle's Inferno, of course, I know nothing about what it is to be a feisty Hellcat.
You did your very
that's
best.
Right.
Yes.
But that's, I think that's good writing allows you to do that. And it's a challenge, obviously, to represent the other gender. I would never claim to be an expert on it, but I can still enjoy Wonder Woman or a well-written novel. I mean, we've been watching a lot of Agatha Christie lately.
Yes.
Imagine what it was like for her writing in her time, right?
Like, she must have written, what did you say? It was close to 100 books?
I think, actually, I looked it up. There were 66 novels and, like, another 100 short stories and stuff like that.
And it's amazing to me that here's this woman that was so prolific, unlike maybe some of the bigger authors today who have co-writers and then they just maybe put their name on there. We're trying to get all of the things sorted out, the technology and now the Wi-Fi. So I really...
Roxanne O'Neill just joined, so
yes.
I blame her.
Hi. Do not blame my childhood best friend, by the way.
Awesome.
And is that better now? Can you folks see us? Can you give us a thumbs up?
Give us a thumbs up anyways.
Okay.
Frozen on my end.
Can you see us now? I feel like that AT&T commercial. Can you want to make sure that we handle chapter 5 in a very respectable way. Thank you.
Thumbs up, yeah, great.
That we handle that in a very respectable way, and
that's going to be a whole topic of discussion.
Yes.
So that'll be 2 weeks.
2 weeks. We're going to talk about chapter 5, and again, just to recap for those of you that have not read that first book yet, it's a fairly intense chapter, and
it affects the whole character too, and we want to have a realistic representation of that, and we won't spoil anything for now, but just be aware of that. If you want to read the book, I mean, spoiler alert, I mean, we're going to talk about the story here.
Yeah, absolutely.
but if you read chapter 5 for 2 weeks from now.
Yeah.
Then,
in fact, we would love to know, those of you who have, if you've read the book, can you let us know in the comments? And did it grab...
You don't count, Neil. Sorry.
That is mean. That is mean. And definitely we want to make sure that we put a trigger warning on that conversation. Yep. And that's a very deep, intense conversation that we want to have, because we want to make sure that we honor Charlaine's world.
Yep.
And it's such a deep, intrinsic part of Lily. Mm-hmm.
And for many women too, right? And
for many women. So we want to make sure that when we have that conversation, that we do it in a respectful way, that we make sure that it's not coming from a place of dismissal, exploitation.
Or,
that's the last thing we want to do. In fact, when we were having this preliminary conversation yesterday, we were talking about book 2, and book 2 has a lot of racial conflict. And so it's like, oh, great. So now we have the first novel, which has some strong sexual violence themes to it, and to women, perpetrated against women. And then the second book has some racial conflict. So it's like, maybe we should have picked something a little more lighthearted.
I like our art that takes on, because it's still poignant today, right?
Yeah.
This is something that's still being experienced. And even then, I think many would argue that it's kind of this dark secret of the South.
Yes. Well, and I think as we're seeing what's happening in modern, especially with the racial conflict, we're still seeing it happen. It's not just the South. We're seeing a lot of stuff happening all over the place. Yeah. So, I mean, it's we do want to touch on that, and we want to make sure that we do that in a respectful and an open dialogue way. So,
and still honor the story.
Thanks for everybody for joining in and watching. So that's really great. I would love to know from the people that are watching, what do you think makes a really great mystery? Whether it's a game or a film or a book. So if you want to chime in.
I mean,
Neil says book 2 is his favorite so far.
I'm excited to handle some of those issues.
Well, we got to get through book 1 first.
No, I know. But this it is exciting, and what's great is, having read book 2, having done all the work and rebuilding Shakespeare in my mind, and and Neil can probably appreciate this too, is, I was reading an article about dinosaurs, lots and lots of dinosaurs.
Dinosaurs and mysteries. Sure, okay.
You wacky
That
ball.
is the sense of humor you can come to expect from Neil Halford.
That's right. He's a goofball. No, but I mean, yeah, just seeing these worlds come to life. I was reading an article just before this podcast about what makes a good series.
Okay.
And it should be something that this world that you look forward to going back and visiting. And Shakespeare's kind of become that for me. It's really great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
It should be this place that you want to visit, this quaint little town and the people in it. Right?
Well, and I remember when I originally read the series. In fact, I've only read up to book 3, so we talked about that last week.
You couldn't even remember book 3.
No, I remember book 3. I really liked book 3. That's why I was super excited. Of the comment that Shakespeare is kind of like a noir Mayberry. Yeah, it's very much a small town, and it has some ugly stuff happening. And I think ugly stuff happens regardless of the size of a community. We live in a city of almost 150,000 people. And there is some awful stuff that happens just on the outskirts and on the insert, inside of town. So
going back to Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, who wrote the Sherlock Holmes series, that was actually one of the comments he made even back in 19th century is, yes, there are the crimes of the city, but sometimes some of the most heinous stuff is just the stuff that takes place in villages that you never hear about.
I'm telling you, Midsummer
And so
Murders.
yeah.
There's so much murdering happening. So
Well, that's a little over the top.
So Neil's on book 4. So Neil is ahead of us. Rebecca power read through all of them. I know you're super excited about this, and who knows, maybe book 3 and book 4 we might venture into virtual reality. That's a possibility.
Okay. Note that I am the tech person, and this is the...
Oh, am I doing that thing where it's like, hey, tech guy, just
promise, we'll just deliver it. Yeah, sure.
So what do women want? I think we've kind of covered this in a couple of our podcasts already. It's that storytelling element.
Well, can I sort of say, I mean, I've worked in the games industry for 16 years. I worked at Electronic Arts, and, you know, for me, I'm tired of playing games where I blow stuff up. I mean, I love the Civ games and stuff like that, but I also like talking, communicating with people, communicating with characters, real characters. And so that, for me, is just seeing Rebecca Johnson says, we can help with the VR.
I know. I'm on it.
I mean, for me, I like a story, a good story. And I think that's what I'm most excited about with One More Story games.
Well, tell me a little bit about how you envision Chapter 1. So let's give a recap of Chapter 1.
Sure. So Lily is the book starts out with, so I mean, spoiler alert, I mean, this is, you know, the first couple of pages. So Lily is working out. Mm-hmm. She is...
It's late at night.
It's late at night in her house. She is, you know, kicking it up with her...
she has a
punching bag.
Is it a punch bag, kicking bag, something like that? Yeah.
And so she's there working out late at night, and then one of the things that she does, because like many of us who can't sleep at night, see the bags under the eyes?
Yes.
She can't sleep, you know, she has these intense flashbacks, which we'll get to in chapter 5. So she goes for a walk, and she walks around her town of Shakespeare, and then she sees someone in the Arboretum, which is right across from her house, and she lives next to the Shakespeare Garden Apartments. Mm-hmm. And so she sees someone dumping something in the middle of the park.
Yeah.
And so then she gets close. She sees that somebody is using her garbage cart that she uses. So somebody's gone to her garage, more or less, taken her garbage cart and rolled this thing out to the center of the park, dumped it, and then is wheeling back. And so what it turns out is it's a body.
It is
more than that, she knows she knows the person.
So
at the first scene, you're standing over...
Wait.
Yes?
Just to explain, when we say the first scene, we mean in the game.
In the game, yes.
So we're skipping all the preamble, and we're going
putting
straight
you right
to...
in these circumstances. And so that'll be sort of some of the briefing beforehand.
Yeah.
But the very first scene, when you close the briefing screen, the introduction for the whole game, it will then... You're standing over this body. What do you do? You know?
Well, and I'm pretty sure that we touched on this on a previous podcast, and maybe we should just have like little synopses of what we've talked about, little cheat sheets here, because I would hate to repeat ourselves and make it boring for people who are listening. But that idea of, you know, trying to give you, as people who have read through the series, a new experience of Shakespeare.
Yep.
And also that idea of player agency. As we get into chapter 2 in the book, it's you're cleaning at Mrs. Hofstetler's apartment, and that's your first interaction. Well, technically, it's your second interaction with Claude Friedrich, the man of the law.
It may or may not be, depending on what you've chosen beforehand.
That's true.
Right?
That's true.
So, and that's actually... And this is what sort of Neil and I are sort of going through, is that you as Lily are always going to be able to make choices and come up with different options than the book Lily did, right? And for us, it's just trying to figure out, okay, so if you choose that, what are all the ramifications of that, and how does that flow through the rest of the story?
Do you think we would ever turn Lily into a social butterfly?
A social butterfly.
As in, like, there's like this weird parallel universe in the game where she's friendly to people.
Oh, well, you can always play that, right?
Okay.
And even then,
that would seem so strange to me.
Yeah, I mean, I currently have my hit list of challenges that we're going to have to deal with as we go through. Maybe we'll talk about some of them next week.
Yeah.
But it's no, says Neil, the social butterfly.
Yeah, exactly.
It's hard to.
There are other people saying no. So I think it's important to.
I mean, it betrays Lily, the character in the book, but we have to incorporate all these choices. And that's actually some of the fun stuff when I have scenes in the story.
Well, I think you could have choices where it's like levels of her sarcasm and levels of her bitterness.
Well, and what's great about the way that I think Charlaine Harris writes this is that you do have those flashback moments, like almost where you can imagine her clubbing somebody to death, saying, "I would love to do this," and of course I don't. But maybe that's a choice in the game, or
Ooh.
I mean, this is the fun and the challenge of this.
Well, and we also talked about the Norval.
Yes.
Because there's the scene in the book where Norval is the character who also resides in the apartments, mm-hmm. and he works at the church, and he has a drinking problem. And
that's putting it lightly. Anyways,
he's supposed to be on the wagon. He's definitely off the wagon. And hi, Will. Hey, everybody, for watching. Thanks for joining in, by the way. And so you have Norval, who is sort of like this antagonistic character that Lily encounters mostly in the church, and there's like this conflict between them. But later in the novel, he attacks her. And so it's like this choice point of...
Even when you meet her, and that's not spoiling anything, I mean, that is... there is this antagonism right off the bat.
Oh, yeah, they hate each other.
Yeah.
So...
Now, Rebecca says it should always be true to her character to keep the characters and narrative consistent. Yes, I agree with that. But Lily, you are Lily, and so you should have that full range. We should be able to handle any range of choices, and even then, that's the fun for me, is coming up with stuff that's so far out there.
But she'll never be the Suzy Creamcheese, like the friendly hostess.
I had never even heard that before.
No, Suzy Creamcheese is like the friendly little hostess.
Okay.
If anyone else has heard that phrase, please back me up.
Tell me this isn't just a Canadian thing.
Or somebody obsessed with cream cheese, as I am.
As you are. There's a whole story there, but we won't get to that.
So there's that's... Oh, look, see, there's love. People have heard the phrase. Ha ha! There you go. So there's that scene when Norval attacks her, and wouldn't it be great if there are some narrative decision points?
Yes.
Maybe Lily hears him. Maybe Lily attacks him to a more serious degree than she actually attacks him, because she does attack him.
Oh, yeah.
But so, like, what are the degrees and layers that we're going to put in there? She has a hugely antagonistic relationship with Marshall Sadaka's wife. Does she even get involved with Marshall Sadaka? So these are...
We've talked about that before.
Yeah, we really want to expand the world and have an opportunity. Never heard Suzy, but you added Suzy Creamcheese to the character list. Maybe that could be like a nickname, So it'll just be like a little hostess who loves serving sweet tea. I have my sweet tea.
All right, I got my water down here.
Speaking of sweet tea, we still have to collectively come up with some ideas of what to serve at our big launch party, which is on October the 11th. So if you're wanting...
but you did find some people that we had met at BoucherCon, or no, not BoucherCon, Bloody Words, which was another mystery convention in Toronto.
Oh, yes.
Right? So this is...
a shout out to Sweet Olenka's. They are a chocolatier and bakery, and they did the coolest chocolate mold, and they had maple bacon cupcakes. So they are my number one go-to.
See, they might be doing stuff for BoucherCon already. Ooh. We might need to talk to them ahead of time. So.
Yeah. because I want some really. They had
They had
gun
like little
molds.
guns.
Yeah, so we might have a little gun. Even
And
though
a
there's
knife, like there was a knife there as well, I think.
maybe a knife.
Yeah.
They had skulls.
Yep, they did. Yep,
Chocolate
solid
skulls.
chocolate skulls. They were
So
good.
we'll have to think about.
White chocolate skulls. I mean, hey.
We are thinking about the
Alas,
party.
poor yours. Okay.
We are thinking about the party because you know what? We're super excited. We do have a lot of work ahead of us this summer to be able to launch this game. And
Our artist is away right now.
yes, so
Where is he?
he's in Costa Rica. So
Hi, Anthony.
he is enjoying Costa Rica.
He posted a picture of this wonderful waterfall today.
Oh, I haven't.
Did you see that?
No,
Oh,
I haven't seen it.
yeah.
But by some sheer miracle, Blair got invited to Costa Rica, so he's going the following Saturday.
Go figure. I don't go anywhere, folks. I really don't.
And normally I get to go. I'm a little bit jealous, but
It's a programmer thing.
let's not get distracted.
Okay. All right. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, let's be like.
So what were you talking about?
I was talking about Charlaine.
Okay.
All right, and I was.
Dinosaurs. I told you.
You guys make it really
You're not
difficult
helping, Neil.
to keep it on target and on topic. See, Urban Dictionary,
Suzy Creamcheese. Oh my!
I'm not going to
God.
click on the link, but
No.
I know that is a thing. So I have to tell you something.
It's about your con. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Arrgh.
I'm trying to get you back.
Don't let me dump you in the body in a garbage bag in the woods. You're getting this close.
Oh dear.
Okay. Who done it? Right here. So the exciting thing happened this week. Charlaine has said that she is going to join us on a video chat, and we're going to schedule that for late July. And we're super excited, sometime in July.
Yep.
So, like, how exciting is it that Charlaine is going to be part of our video chats? And I think that's really excited.
I can't wait. Just there's so much that we can talk about, and I apparently she is watching the podcasts and loving what we're doing, which is, thank you so much. This is really cool, and we get to play in her sandbox in the world that she's created. Mm-hmm. We get to have so much fun with her characters. It's funny because I have over here. Nope, I have over here. So I pulled out of storage. These are my Mulder and Scully. Uh-huh. How does this relate, you might ask?
Yes, how does this relate?
Because once upon a time, Stephen King wrote a story for The X-Files. And the way he described it was he got to play with somebody else's toys. As a writer, you got to go in and, right? And this is very much when we're adapting Charlaine's story, we all get to come over to little Charlaine's house and play with her toys for a bit, and it's
that's a cool
and
way
get
of
to
looking
imagine
at it. And I think about the people who are like, I know with Marvel Comics and DC Comics that they have a huge staff of writers who are jumping in and creating games in that space.
Yeah.
I follow
I
somebody.
even worked on a Marvel game once.
Well, we're talking about the comics.
I'm sorry.
Yes. So online, I follow a writer who, Gail Simone, and she is one of the writers who works on the Wonder Woman comics.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
She was actually on the Joko cruise, and we were supposed to meet up with her, and it just never happened.
Oh.
I know.
Okay. Well, we'll have to.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So when we did Danielle's Inferno, for instance, again, it's this playing with the world, the world of this made up hell. Mm-hmm. If you haven't played it yet, give it a try, folks. Maybe we can give out some keys or something like that.
Yeah. If any of
try it on
you
the iPad,
would like to know her from City of Heroes,
Cool.
I'm assuming you're talking about Gail Simone and not Suzy Cheesecake. Yeah.
Cream cheese.
I'm preoccupied with cheesecake now.
Yeah, okay.
So we talked about cheesecake last week.
We did.
We won't go there.
Yeah.
We won't go there.
So we're going to get to talk with Charlaine.
Yes.
And get to share sort of this experience of what it's like to...
So if you have questions for Charlaine, it would be really great if we could start making a list of them. You can always leave them in the comments of one of the videos.
No True Blood questions or anything like that.
Yeah,
Let's focus on Lily Bard,
We'll stick to Lily Bard, and because I can imagine that there's probably a lot of people interested in her Midnight Texas series, because that's coming out at the end of the month. July 24th.
July 24th. We got the date right now.
Yes, it's a miracle these things happen, right? Yeah. So if you have questions about the Lily Bard series, or how she feels about adaptations,
especially Bobby Winthorpe.
Oh, set up a poll. That's a clever idea, Neil. Okay, we will do that. Yes, because Bobby. We're temporarily calling Bobo Winthrop Bobby because, as we said, I think it was back in the first podcast, he has to legally be renamed to a different character. I think Bobby works for me, but we'll have to see if that. Oh dear.
All right. So that's a lot of the stuff we really wanted to talk about this week. So next week is the talk with Neil.
Yes, and you guys are going to dive deeper into the experiences that you've had adapting somebody's work. Especially, I think Neil will do most of the talking.
I also want to talk about some of his Krondor experience as well, and just sort of some of the compliments he got in working with some of others' works.
Right, and then hopefully in future podcasts, like Will, who is chatting it up.
Hey, Will.
In the chat box, he was one of the writers for Danielle's Inferno. So Blair and
I miss that cat so much.
It's a good story.
Yeah.
Blair and Will and Michelle also in there sort of steering what her vision was. And I just want to acknowledge that you did a lot of the heavy lifting between you and Will. I have added in a few jokes and I did some editing.
No, and that's very important.
Yes. I don't want to make it seem like I was like a heavy writer on that. I wasn't. I was an editor.
But you brought the funny.
You know what? There's some funny lines in there.
There are.
And I think there's always room for having an extra pair of eyes that just tighten things up.
And that's the importance that's why I want to get you into the story for Lily Bard, right?
Yes.
Not for this administrative stuff,
Ugh. Paper clips and staplers.
So we're starting to organize these chats into podcasts.
Yes, we'll be posting the podcast link. So if watching videos is not your thing and you would rather listen to it straight up as an audio, then that will be available. We'll let you know where you can find that. And did you want to add anything else to today's conversation? So we talked about how we're on iPad and Android, and the links are in the chat. We'll pin them up to the top. And we talked about how Neil's coming on the show next week. And 2 weeks from now, we're going to talk about Chapter 5 and how do we deal with the very sensitive topic of sexual violence against women, and how will we be dealing with that in the game?
Yeah.
Because I think it would be a disservice to ignore it, but how do we do that in a respectful day?
I might like to talk to some advocacy groups as well.
Yes.
That might be worthwhile.
And it's definitely on the horizon for, maybe we might even push that talk back just to make sure that we have the appropriate input.
Really prepared? Okay.
Yeah.
We'll see how that goes.
It's important to us. We're not afraid to tackle serious topics when it comes to in-game narrative. I see a lot of games. It
serves the character. Sorry, I'm not trying to interrupt you. I know
Well, I look at some of the games that are popular, and I don't like the way they treat. First of all, I don't like the way they treat women.
That goes without saying.
So I don't like the over sexualized physiques that they create for female characters. I remember when you were doing, I want to say it's the snowboarding game SSX and SSX 3, which is the one you were predominantly on. And the character to me was like this. Wah, tiny waist, wah. And I just thought to myself, it's like, okay, you have it's predominantly men.
Oh no, I know. And I'm not a fan of this either.
But my comment to, I think, your manager at the time was, what would your daughters think? Like, what message are you sending to your daughters? I'm sure I endeared myself to him. But where do you step in and be an advocate to make sure that you're representing people respectfully? People.
Yep. Well, and it even Carrie mentions there, talk to people impacted by violence. Not everybody belongs to an advocacy group. No, that's completely true. we're using that as a way to develop the discussion. That's not the end of the discussion. That's the start of it, really and truly.
Yeah.
There's a lot of great groups out there that do work. For me, I mean, seeing Wonder Woman last week, seeing the island of Amazons and these healthy, right? I mean, and nary, I would say, an implant among them, right? I mean, it was...
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Well, you're talking about the stick figure.
No. What I'm
Okay.
talking about is unrealistic body proportions, where it's like, bam, tiny waist, bam. That is a cartoon representation of female form.
Yeah.
And, Megan, yes, absolutely. I would say that Lily is athletic and muscular, and that's why we had Anthony go along the track of Mila Jovovich from the Resident Evil series. Like, you see, she's fit. She's not overly slim. She looks healthy, and she looks like a badass. So, and that's how I see Lily. I see her as she keeps close to herself. Some of the other games that I really, and this will probably come up again in that very same conversation when we get into that one, but Grand Theft Auto, I think for those of you who are familiar with it, it is a game where, do you ever play a female protagonist?
Not that I'm aware of.
So it's a male protagonist, and one of the things that you can do is you can pick up a professional working woman. Do I need to use the euphemism? And then you commit a horrible crime with her. Like, you beat her after she has provided her her service, and somehow that's acceptable. So I want us to make sure that we're approaching it from a very responsible place. In a way,
there's a sophomore view of sexuality, right? It's unbalanced, and I think that's what we're striving to.
We are so going to go deeper into that conversation.
Oh yeah, I know. No,
and I think when we do that and we do the Facebook Live, I think we'll even have to put a trigger warning on there, because we'll be talking about sexual violence in a much more deep way. Not to be graphic about it, but it's
Thanks, Neil.
Yeah, Meredith, exactly, Barbie, and that is typically what I have seen when I look at other people's screenshots when they're working on their games. That's what I see. I see this weird thing of, and women don't look like that. There are some women that look like that, but I think it promotes the wrong thing to say that is the standard of beauty.
Yeah.
That so I really, man, it is like the number one thing that really bothers me is how women are represented in games
and in movies. I mean, that's it is media, which is, and I think the more that we have women storytellers, directors, and that
writers and producers and CEOs,
absolutely, this is important.
This is very important,
and it's important to us too.
Ooh, Michelle Rodriguez. Yeah, you know what? That's a really cool suggestion, Carrie. I hadn't thought about that, but, when I saw that Resident Evil photo, I was like, that's Lily Bard right there. So, thank you.
Speaking of which, I mean, where Michelle Rodriguez came from is this wonderful indie film called Girl Fight. Right? And if you haven't seen that's
yeah.
And there is an authentic woman who is surviving in her own way.
Yeah.
And it's a great story.
Mm-hmm. It just makes me think, because Lily is in the martial arts world, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe that Charlaine herself also used to do some martial arts, so we can ask her that when she's on the podcast, and ask her like how long she was in it and how far she got.
She's very familiar, it seems, just knowing that, and I think that's great.
Well, I mean, does that make her a vampire? She was very familiar in the True Blood series.
Doesn't make me a Hellcat, so.
But
hey, Will, shout out to you, man.
So
this is just showing, what we're all about and what we're trying to do.
So our priorities between now and the next podcast are, we're actually, by next Friday, we'll be delivering some stuff to Charlaine.
Yep.
and giving her the initial pass at how things are going, which is exciting, and hopefully she likes the direction that we're taking. That's always nerve-wracking, right? When somebody else gets to have, this is her world.
Yeah.
But so we're super excited about that. I think you're gonna have a great chat with Neil next week.
Yep.
And
Enjoy your lobster.
I will enjoy my lobster, and maybe if we can figure it out, we might even have a 3 chat, but probably not. I will be eating lobster. I'll be just like lobster in my mouth. Ah, lobster.
And then I'll be off in Costa Rica.
But you'll be back for the following podcast.
Yeah.
So if you do have questions that you want us to ask for Charlaine, please write them down. And if you would like to win a VIP package to our launch party, which is October the 11th in Toronto, make sure you go to lilybard.com, LILY and even if
hopefully I have some new stuff to post there. Sorry, I'm not trying to cut you off.
Always. We're so married.
I know.
First husband.
That's where we're going to start posting some stuff soon.
Yes,
First husband.
So lilybard.com is going to become the repository of where you can find the archived podcasts and the archived video chats. And also, yes, put up a screenshot of me eating lobster. That would make me feel like I'm here.
I would do that.
Yes. Yes.
A little cutout.
Yeah. Maybe, that's an awful gesture. Okay, maybe like I'll hold up
Jiffify that, folks.
Yeah.
Suzy Creamcheese.
Yeah. So thank you very much for joining in and for participating. We'll try not to delete this chat.
Please don't.
Please, could we just have 1 week where the Wi-Fi works and the tech works and all of that?
Yeah, sorry about the pauses this week, but
yes,
you know.
And
thank you for the feedback, folks. We do this for you, and you help us get through the week. I'm now at the point where I look forward to this at the end of every week. Isn't it great?
You guys are my favorite people.
Yeah.
You are my favorite people. And I really love the feedback that you're giving us.
And hopefully we'll have more, we'll have more substantive stuff to show you as we go along.
Yes, and we'll try not to repeat ourselves either so that you don't get bored with us. But next week, so you're going to be talking to Neil. Mm-hmm. Maybe you'll be able to show them some of your virtual pictures of Lily's house.
Maybe even Lily herself. Or are we going to save that? Okay,
we're going to save that.
All right.
We're going to save that. So that'll be, maybe we'll do that when we have Charlaine. I don't know.
Ah, okay, yeah.
So you'll get to the big Lily reveal when Charlaine is on the show.
That'll be good for the
So that's pretty awesome. Well, Carrie, you know what? It may only be 9 or 10 of you watching live, but there are definitely people who watch in the post live episode, and we really appreciate everybody's engagement. It makes it easier to get through this because you know what, being indie game developers it can be tough sometimes.
A lot of the time.
But I like to think that we have a great project on our hands.
Yeah.
And people are excited. And I know that people have actually been buying the books so that they can read along.
Yeah.
And Lily, I'm sure Charlaine appreciates the fact that there are more book sales as well. And in fact, if I'm not mistaken, that is one of the things that she said about True Blood is that, it's not so much that you got paid a huge lump sum for the True Blood license, but so many people came and purchased more books, which also benefits the author.
And hopefully Midnight will do the same for a lot of her stuff as well, right?
And I know she's got like another Aurora Tea Garden book coming out in September.
Yeah.
So for Charlaine, it's like end of July is when her Midnight Texas series comes out. Then the beginning of September, she's got her Aurora Tea Garden. Then in October, she's got our stuff launching. So she's gonna be really busy with all of this great stuff. Yeah. And she's a really great storyteller. Yeah. So
we'll tell her that.
We will tell her that.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. And we will see you next Friday at 3:00.
Well, you might not, but First husband.
All right. Thanks again, guys. Bye.